to March 1st, our next Career Tuesday in the lineup with no other than Lilly Pharmaceutical. It's great to have Yolanda here back on the call, as well as a UConn alum, Rachel. Thank you so much for both of us, both of you rather, joining us here today to give students more inside scoop about your organization, career opportunities, as well as hopefully some insight about company culture and who Eli Lilly is. So I definitely want to open up the floor to both of you guys. I'm not sure who would like to start, but maybe Yolanda, if you just want to maybe provide us a little bit of detail about who Eli Lilly is, as far as an employer. Everyone just thinks of big pharma, but I'm sure Eli Lilly has a big presence in other areas within that industry as well. So I'll definitely give the floor over to you, and thank you again for joining us today.
Okay. Well, I can say at Lilly, we probably wouldn't consider ourselves big pharma because we're a Midwestern company. We're located in Indiana with outlets around the world, and our goal is to unite caring and medication to help people improve their lives in a whole host of disease states. Both Rachel and myself, we work in the diabetes division as sales reps, but we also have oncology, dermatology, rheumatology, neurology, that we have products that reps are out promoting bliss. We also have animal health with Elanco, and we do other like philanthropic things around the world as well. Our primary, like I said, our primary focus is diabetes as sales reps, but we do know people that go inside and do other things within the company.
Fantastic. And I guess as far as the question goes related to how you guys even got involved with Eli Lilly, for you, Yolanda, did you have a traditional route, majoring in a science degree or pharmacy major? What's your background like, to give a little insight flavor for students? Is it a traditional route to becoming a pharmacy sales rep? Do you have to have that science background?
You don't, as Rachel will talk to about when she talks about herself, but I actually do have a BS in chemistry, and I also have an MBA with a concentration in marketing. And I got into it because when I was in graduate school, I met someone that was a representative, and it sounded interesting to me. And I also took a career placement assessment, and it said pharmaceutical sales would be really great with my interests of both science and business. And through her, I learned a little bit more about the industry. I started with a smaller pharmaceutical company when I first got out, and then worked for another larger company before being laid off. And then during that time, I had heard really great things about working at Lilly and the corporate culture. And they were looking to hire some reps. And I came on board about 13 years ago with Lilly. Wow. And pretty happy ever since. So I do have that BS in chemistry, although it's not necessary to have a science degree because we can teach you the science. We really want you to have a capacity for learning. I mean, Rachel, wouldn't you agree?
Definitely, because I think my background and how I kind of came into the company really is very different from your experience. So my dad actually has been in pharma for like 25 plus years. So I had that growing up where I knew a little bit about the industry, but actually when I was at UConn, I was a communications major. So completely different from Yolanda. And I knew I wanted to kind of get into sales. So I actually did post-graduation. I did inside sales. I did IT recruiting for 2 years and then left that for an opportunity with Lilly. And that it'll be 6 years in May that I've been with Lilly, which is crazy to me because I feel like some days I just started and some days I feel like I've been here forever, but in a good way. Because it is, I think what I like about it too is like it's so challenging and like every day is different and it really pushes you to problem solve and be a resource and partner with a lot of the offices and providers that we work with. So that was really attractive to me too. And I feel like there were some things that I was able to apply from my communications degree that helped me build relationships and do my job, and then also some things that I learned along the way, whether it's from my previous job or even from the training that I received with Lilly. Like Lilly does a great job with kind of providing you the tools and the resources you need to be successful. So don't be intimidated by the science aspect of it, because honestly, like looking back at it now, I'm like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought that I'd be talking so in depth with these physicians about diabetes. But I mean, the training really helps get you in a place where you can be successful and feel confident having those conversations.
That's fantastic. What great insight. And it's great to know, Yolanda, as well, the power of networking, along the way, building the rapport with other, students in your class. You never know who's sitting next to you or who you're going to meet, whether it's at a virtual event like this or at a career fair. And then Rachel as well, giving that inside scoop that, you're a communications major, but you're meeting day to day with medical offices, and interpersonal communication is so vital to having successful engagement and transactions when it comes to promoting and marketing that material on behalf of Lilly. So it's just two key elements I want students to remember, that it's a learning process, and it's great to know that you have that mentorship and support along the way as well in becoming a stronger sales rep, and also in all these variety of facets that Lilly provides, which is great. Whether it's I think Yolanda mentioned again, dermatology or oncology. There's different focus areas as well, and I'm sure you probably had some rotations in different divisions as well at this point.
Well, I've at Lilly, I've sold neuroscience products and diabetes products. Prior to Lilly, I sold what did I sell? I sold cardiology, arthritis, migraine. So depending on what company you're with and what your interests are, you can kind of move around. I mean, we actually have openings in other divisions within the company right now for sales. So I know of several people that have left the diabetes division and went over to our new Alzheimer's division. We also have we've also lost teammates that have gone to the dermatology division. So you can, move around, and we've also had people leave the team to go in-house. I know for myself, I've explored going in and doing maybe a marketing role or going into operations, but I realized after
So more on the corporate side.
Yeah, on the corporate side, that I really like being in the field. So I've chosen to make my career as a sales rep, which is why I'm an executive sales rep. Because that's the path I chose. But I have explored the possibilities of doing other things and realized, for me and my personality and what I want to accomplish, I'm staying on the sales side.
That's awesome.
Yolanda, just to kind of build off that too, I think that speaks a little bit to our culture, in the sense that they're very encouraging of what you're looking to get out of your career. So as long as you're vocal about, hey, I'm interested in pursuing sales, or I want to get into training or regulatory or the finance side or some other aspects, like they're really big on shadow days, getting you that exposure, being a guest trainer if you're interested, making sure that you're talking to the right people to really figure out, like, hey, where do you want to kind of define your career going forward? What path do you see yourself going down? So I think that it's also a very supportive environment to help you kind of figure it out too. You don't have to come here saying like, all right, I just want to be in sales. Like, I think there's a lot of opportunity once you get your foot in the door. So
that's fantastic to know. And speaking of those types of opportunities, what are some of those current roles, as a kind of going back full circle here, Yolanda, that you mentioned that are currently active or open, that you guys are looking to fill, whether it's internships or full-time entry-level roles? And what's that application process really look like? Should students be applying on LinkedIn? Should they be going to the website on Lilly?
They should go to the lilly.com/careers website to put in their information. And I didn't get a chance to look today, but I looked yesterday when you sent me the email about what we had available. And I know in this area, we have a few sales rep positions that are open, because our corporate headquarters is in Indiana. If a student is relocatable.
Okay.
I did see that there's some finance areas, some associate roles for finance as well as marketing that were available, but those are in Indianapolis. So if you're willing to, move to the Midwest, there are some corporate opportunities available, because with the pandemic and everything, Lilly had a hiring freeze on
Okay.
last year for full-time work, but that got lifted toward the end of last year. So there's been a lot of shuffling around. So there are positions available. So if someone's interested, they should go to lilly.com/careers to fill out the application. And what that does is puts them into the pool, and they need to apply for as many positions as they can. Because if you only apply, because I know someone that's going through it right now who is a friend of a friend who just applied. He only applied for one position, so it doesn't open him up to other managers that may be looking in the area. So he applied for a position in Hartford. But there's positions open in Massachusetts, there's positions open in New York, but because he only has selected that one position, that's the only one he is applying for. Whereas if he had gone in and selected all of the jobs that interest him, if one of the other managers thought he was a good candidate, but maybe not the right fit for their team, it would have automatically put him in the running for the next position that he is. So if someone is interested and they go in and see a couple of sales position, if that's something they want to do, check them all off. So because that keeps you in the running for a lot more positions. Because one of the great things that when Rachel was talking about our culture is we want to make sure that it's the right fit for the territory, for the team. And I know having sat in on some interviews and talked to different managers, that they always are looking for people that bring something else to their team when they're deciding on who to hire.
Absolutely. That's fantastic to know. Being more open, check that all that apply when it comes to those opportunities and making sure you don't limit yourself just to that one single location. And sort of speaking to that, as far as many students that do look for opportunities outside of the state, is there any relocation benefits too for relocating, say, across country or the Midwest for an opportunity?
I'm not sure for new hires. I know once you get into the company and you move for a position, that there is funds available for that. I mean, I know of several coworkers that moved. Well, one coworker moved from Connecticut down to Florida and got a relocation package. And then like our manager was in Indianapolis before he came out here, and they gave him a relocation. So I know once you're in the company, um, they help you out and they help you move. I'm not quite sure for someone that's new coming into the company.
Got it. Fantastic. And as far as to on the company website, because I did kind of scroll through there and searching for key roles. Is it keyword dependent when someone's conducting a search? Do you have to type in their LDP, internships, sales role to find that opportunity? And then is there something that's more geared towards the entry level role?
There are student. If you go, you can select student opportunities for one, because when you go to lilly.com/careers, at the top you'll see the filters. If you want to search all of the jobs, which I mean, I would do that if I was a student. I wouldn't just limit myself to see what the student opportunities are, because those are more in line with like internships and stuff. But if you have a senior who's graduating in May, they should just go right to the page and then filter out if there's a particular state they want to live in. Like when I did it, I filtered just the United States because I wasn't looking to see what was available outside the US. And then I started looking at all of the positions available just so I could be able to talk to them today. But let's say I personally wanted to stay in sales, I would just filter out for sales position or US remote. Those are the sales jobs when it says US remote.
Okay. Got it.
Another thing
Fantastic.
too to kind of keep in mind when it comes to filtering, which I think is like a good rule of thumb anytime you're searching for posts, are to kind of start broad and work your way down, because you don't want to be too specific right out of the get go, and then all of a sudden you only have two jobs versus, hey, there could have been like 10 or 15 that you qualified for, but because you were really specific and put yourself in that pigeonhole, it limits yourself. So I think it's easier to start really broad, and then kind of work your way down and narrow it a little bit down there. And I know that the website is very user friendly. So, once you kind of figure out, hey, I want to do finance, or I want to do marketing, or I want to get into sales, then it's easier to narrow, within that search to find something that's the most relevant for what you're looking for.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you guys for that great insight. I always tell students as well in that job search process to try to leave it, like you're saying, Rachel, leave it more open-ended for the search. So you don't necessarily limit yourself to only a few roles or a couple roles, right? Because of the fields that you sort of put in that job search process. Um, Now, when it comes to talent, and once a student actually finds that position, they apply for it. What are some of the skills that you look for? And again, whether it's in person, whether it's applying for an opportunity via online, and going through a networking event, even such as this, what are the skills, and sort of those standout candidates that really make a difference, if you will, in the application process or networking process that really resonate with you, to get them into that yes pile? What do students have to do to succeed in that?
And being that I have actually sat in on several of those, several interviews
Sure.
and talked to some of the managers on what they're looking for, they are looking for self starters, especially for anyone that's interested in the sales side of things, because this isn't a job where you're checking in every day, where you're physically going to an office. So they are looking for someone on their resume that shows that they actually have drive and they actually have the desire to get them. They don't need to be handheld because we're going to give you all of the tools that you need to go out and do your job, but we know we need to be able to trust that you're going to go out and do your job. So they are looking for opportunities where you've been a leader. Say you were on a sports team, or you were in a sorority or a fraternity or a club of some kinds where you've been a leader. So they're looking for that self-starting aspect of things. Like I said, science doesn't have to be your background. We're not specifically going directly for someone that has a biology degree or a chemistry degree or any of those things.
I'm
But
sure it doesn't hurt.
no, it doesn't hurt, but you'll be amazed because we can teach you the science. As
Absolutely.
long as you have the capacity to learn, you can learn. Like for us, like right now, we're learning all about the about heart failure. I mean, neither one of us know anything. I don't. Biology was not my strong suit, but because we're going to be talking about that in the future, we're learning about it now, so we can teach you that. I hate to say we can't teach you personality.
Sure, sure. Absolutely.
And the ability to get up in the morning when your manager, you don't have to clock in someplace. So we're looking for that go-getter attitude. We're looking, and I can tell you, if you're interviewing with Lilly, please take a moment and go past the front page on the website and know like what disease states that we're in. You don't have to know how to say Trulicity, which is one of our products, but at least know that we do diabetes medication. It would help knowing, Trulicity or Jardiance or Lumjev or Tulse or any of our products, but being showing that you actually did some research.
Very important. Absolutely.
And if
Usually
you're
during
looking,
that interview, the employer will ask, "What do you know about our organization?"
oh, what have you done as far
Prepare for this
as
interview.
research? Yes. Um,
Exactly.
if you know someone that's a representative, reach out to get an idea of what the job really is. If you're looking to go into the marketing academy, show on your resume maybe some marketing projects that you were a part of. Those kind of things are things that they look for.
Sure, absolutely. How about Rachel, from your perspective, what would you say really makes candidates stand out, especially giving advice to peers from UConn? What can they do to be successful like you in your position?
I think the biggest thing is show your ability to kind of go out of your comfort zone, and show kind of be open minded in your approach, because that kind of shows a couple of different things. It shows that you're willing to try something new so that you're coachable. Because again, we're going to give you the skills, in terms of the resources and, how to talk shop, with all these providers, but we want to show, be able to see that you're coachable and that you're able to try some new things that maybe might feel a little uncomfortable at first, but actually are going to make you successful down the road. So I think really being just open minded and willing to put yourself out there and out of your comfort zone a little bit. And I think, like, just to kind of really hit home on one thing that Yolanda said that I always look for when I'm talking to students is, someone who is inquisitive and asking questions. A lot of what our job is asking questions and problem solving and kind of, building a relationship. So I think, I want to feel like they're interviewing me as much as I'm interviewing them, because I want to know that they're just as invested as Lily's going to be once we hire them into the company. So
Fantastic. Great advice. Being a go-getter, building that leadership skill along the way in your 4 years of study. So students should definitely join clubs, societies, be active in sports. It sounds like time management is going to be definitely crucial. Willing to challenge yourself and be a lifelong learner, it sounds like as well. I mean, you guys are
Yes.
still learning new products as well, especially when you go through a new innovation phase and have patents and you need to be very knowledgeable about
And
that.
be adaptable. When I shadow the training department, um, they are up in the morning, early in the morning before the training class get there. They have to find ways to keep people engaged and get them learning the different disease states that we're learning. They're there
Wow.
long days coming up with the curricula that we learn. So being adaptable is another skill set that I know in talking with the people on the training side, because that was an area that interests me, that they're looking for. Because sometimes I know people who got promoted into positions and where they train you as a sales rep, they're not going to train you as a trainer. They're not training you as a marketer. They want you to
Yes,
come in ready to hit the ground going.
absolutely. And
With
build that
ideas.
book of business, as
Yes.
they say.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So we definitely learned about some of the skills that you look for in candidates, but let's talk about the recruiting process
mm.
for candidates. What should students expect when it comes to applying for that role and going through the interview process? And is it different for the internship versus the full time? Is it going to be behavioral questions? Are they going to be traditional, multiple rounds? Again, given the state, are we going to be virtual? What does that actually look like with Lilly today?
Right now, I know just from the experience of talking, because I was reference for this particular person, that it's still been virtual. That may change in the near future because that part is fluid. I mean, we're having our first live meeting at the end of this month,
Wow.
so we're slowly but surely coming back, and I know corporate is coming back. But I know that there's usually 2 or 3 interviewers, at least 2 managers in most cases will be interviewing. It is behavior based questions. So they are looking for, how you complete tasks. You tend to use the STAR format, where they ask you a question, they're looking for the situation, what the problem was, what your actions were, and what the results were. So I know that that's one of the formats that they also do during interviews. They do have recruiting companies that when you fill out the application that will do a pre-screen, and then put you into the pool, and then they have interview days. And from that point, when you interview with different managers, if a manager wants to move on you, he may have one other manager interview you just to make sure you're a good fit, and then you get the offer.
Fantastic. And going through that interview phase, I know Rachel, you went through that phase, whether it was here at UConn. Um, what would you say, sort of made that lasting impression, especially if you've already seen interviews as well in these past few years? What really makes a lasting impression for students to be successful during the interview process, in your opinion?
Well, I think, obviously you want to do your research. Like I said before, it should really be an interview on both sides, because it's going to show your investment in the company and your interest in the role. So I think that that's going to help you stand out as a, just your run of the mill candidate who's just looking for a job. I think if you really show that you're invested, that can really help to differentiate yourself. I think another thing too, especially if you're going for a sales role, we're really big on asking for the business. And so I think any interview, whether it's a sales role, a marketing role, finance role, any role, I think you always need to ask, like, hey, out of the things that we've discussed, during the interview, is there anything that would, like, keep me from, doing well in this job? Or what are you looking for? Asking like things like that, and saying, hey, listen, like, based on our conversation and the research I've done on this role in your company, like, I really feel like I'm a strong fit for X, Y, and Z reasons based on our discussion. And I'm really excited to, get some feedback, or, just like I said, ask for the business. Because that, I feel like a lot of times that's something that gets missed. I think people are so stressed and nervous. Hey, listen, it's an uncomfortable situation. You're really putting yourself out there. And I think a lot of times when you get to the end of the interview and they ask, do you have any questions? People are like, nope, because they're so ready to get out of there and like get themselves back into, their comfort zone, that safe space, so to say. So I think not being afraid to just ask some questions at the end and come prepared to ask some questions at the end.
Some great advice. Honestly, great advice. Um, I want to ask both of you about company culture. Like from both of your perspectives, what's it like working at Lilly? And really, what's your favorite part of coming to work each and every day working for Lilly Pharma?
Wow. Well, I've worked for other pharmaceutical companies, and I always like to joke and say I bleed Lily red. Because having come from a culture that was kind of militaristic into one that you can tell it is people first and there is respect for people, you feel that in that as far as from the sales all the way up to the top, we I guess like I can call our VP if I have an issue. Like being able to know who the VP is, who the president is, who the CEO, um, gives you a sense of family. I guess quote unquote, in that if they're implementing a policy, they've gotten really great at telling us the why behind the policy. Because if we're revolting or we're like, this doesn't make any sense, they know that they need to say step back and say, this is why we're doing this. Which is not something that I got at other companies where they just did it. You dealt with whatever they told you, and there was no pushing back. There was no questioning why or any explanation why. So Lilly, from the top down, at least tries to explain the reasoning behind things, and that gives a culture of openness and like, okay, even though I don't like what you're doing, I can understand it.
Get
If
it?
you get what I'm saying.
Yep.
And I think because they hire really, the managers also bring, a family feeling to each team. So I mean, your manager makes or breaks whatever job you're in. If you like your manager and want to work for your manager, then you go above and beyond on the job. And I mean, Rachel and I have a really great manager that we enjoy getting up every day and going that extra. And it also helps that we have great products. So being sales reps, it
That
makes
work.
it makes it great to go into an office and talk about how our products benefit the patients and what they can get out of it.
Fantastic. How about you, Rachel?
So I think just a couple of things to kind of build off what Yolanda was saying. I think they really emphasize company culture and really creating what we call one Lilly, and really having that transparency policy and having things accessible, whether it be people or resources. So especially with like this past couple years dealing with the pandemic and having to go virtual and dealing with the multiple lockdowns, like Lilly has provided a lot of resources to help with the mental health aspect side of things. So I think they do a lot to go above and beyond support outside of the workspace as well. Really promoting like that work-life balance, the really huge emphasis on people, both our customers and the patients and the people who work at Lilly. The other thing too is we have a ton of employee resource groups available too. So whether you personally identify, with a specific group, or you're looking to expand your own knowledge base around a specific group, there's so many different things that allow you to be a part of, both in corporate and from, the field. So for example, I'm an active member in OLA, which is our Latin American cultural ERG, or the Employee Resource Group. And they do a whole bunch of talks. They do conferences. They haven't really in the past couple of years, they've been doing more on the virtual side, but typically you would go and have an opportunity to go into corporate and network and kind of go through different, what we call journeys, and seeing, how people's experience are in the company and looking to grow. And I think that speaks volumes that the company is really trying to continuously push themselves to do better. And I think that just leads to a more inclusive culture, and really one that encourages dialogue and really wants people to bring themselves to their job. And I think that helps you enjoy what you do. Because if you are, really like the customers you're dealing with, but you're getting a lot of stress, because the culture just doesn't match up internally, then you're not going to stick around. So I think there's a really nice balance between the two. So.
And also, we have pretty decent benefits that, because some of the things that the intangible stuff that we don't talk about. I mean, as reps, we get cars, but even in corporate, something that they implemented just a couple of years ago, we have 2 shutdowns during the year where like the whole company shuts down during the summertime and during the holiday season. And having worked at other companies where you have to save vacation days to take time off at the 4th of July or time off with your family, the holidays, that's a big deal, that the whole company. And it came from a survey from the field where people are like, well, you tell us we should take our time off, but we can't relax on our time off if everybody else is still working during like the summertime, during the 4th of July, where a lot of people take off anyway, or during the holiday season. So it's really great that the company recognizes that, and those are given days off without even affecting whatever vacation time you got. So, I mean, that's an added benefit that you don't think about but unless you have worked somewhere else, you see the importance of
You
that.
compare it. You can see it. Absolutely.
And you know that it's a big deal that the company gives everyone gets the whole week off of the 4th and the whole week off from Christmas to New Year's. And you don't have to worry about, oh my God, I got to check my email or my voicemail all the time.
Wow. That's fantastic. Well, it's so great to know that as far as the leadership side, they really provide insight about the changes or things that are going on within the company, and then also supporting, internally the staff, and taking that pulse check of, what do my employees need in the organization, and then Rachel, so much great insight in that, knowing that there are ERGs within the organization and
I'm
build
a
camaraderie.
too, and I'm not Hispanic, so you can have allies. So you don't even have to be a member of that group.
Absolutely. Which is so wonderful. I know we're running limited on time. I'm sorry for running over here, but I guess I would say, Yolanda, is there anything else that you'd want to mention today for students to know, virtually about the organization or about career opportunities with Lilly? And the same thing goes for you, Rachel, as well. Any last thoughts? And then I definitely want to open up the floor to anyone else that has questions following this.
If anyone is interested in joining a Fortune 500 company that actually has a really great pipeline, because that's the other thing you got to look at if you're going into the industry, whether it be sales or marketing or anything like that. If you're looking at a company, you want to look at what their short-term and long-term plans are, and make sure that they have a pipeline that's going to, continue growing in the business. Because there's nothing worse than getting with a company that doesn't have that all of the drugs are going off patent and the research hasn't, put anything out. So we have a really great pipeline. And if you're interested, you don't have to come in as a rep right now because there are positions available. So being flexible, and don't wait until, like, I know it's March 1st or March 2nd. I don't even know what day it is anymore. But if
March 1st, you got it.
if you're looking for a job and Lilly is a place that you want to be, go ahead and apply now. Because I know that if a manager believes that you are the right candidate, they could hold the position for you. But if you wait, because there are positions available, they may get filled up. So if this is something or a company that you're interested in being a part of, I would go ahead and start the process now. Because especially if you're going into the sales side of things, the sales classes are so full. Like, our manager just hired a representative for New Haven, and she's not going into training until later this month, and he hired her last month.
Wow.
So
Wow. That says a
start
lot.
the process now.
Absolutely. Anything, Rachel, that you'd want to add as well? Last thoughts?
Yeah, I think just continue to be curious, because you never know what doors it might lead, and what might open for you guys. The other thing too is I just want to touch on our internship. I know we spend a lot of time talking a lot about our full-time roles, but in the fall we actively recruit for our summer internship. So we already have one for summer 2022, but we'll be back on campus for our internship for summer 2023. And so those are going to be for juniors. So if you're a sophomore this year, you could be junior in the fall. Come see us because it's a great paid 10-week internship. You get full autonomy. It's essentially what we do on a day-to-day basis. You get mentorship and everything like that. But like I said, it's paid. You get a car, the iPad, and really that full experience on what it's like to be a sales rep in pharma and really get a feel for, hey, is this a good fit for me? So like I said, if you're going to be a junior come the fall, come find us. We'd love to talk to you a little bit more about the internship opportunity as well.
That's fantastic. Great insight scoop, and no better way to get a better understanding of the industry and the job opportunity itself than experiencing that 10-week internship, especially for getting a car.
Yeah.
That is awesome.
Company card, credit card.
Company car, you can't go wrong. Now, if there's any questions, it's going to take a look and field in the chat function, or if
There
anyone
was
does have any
one.
questions, there's one. Let's see here. Are these positions only open to recent graduates?
I think that the question was just answered.
Yeah, it was.
Yes.
Checking here.
And I'm the one who put in the question early on, specifically Rachel, as a UConn alum. Are you, or how do you feel about putting your contact information in the chat and having students reach out to you directly, just maybe for a little networking and Q&A? Yolanda, you as well, but more Rachel from being a UConn alum.
Yeah, I'm happy to share my information with you guys.
Great.
What I can do is
Thank you.
include my email, and then we can kind of set up a time that way. Because honestly, I'm always in my email when I'm in the field, so I can definitely share my email in the chat.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
of course.
Thank
And
you.
how about you, Yolanda?
I will do it as well. I'm just looking to see where your chat function is so I can put it in there.
I say the same thing too, Yolanda. So.
That's why you
That
see
should
me
be to your
staring at
right
the
there.
screen. Like, where is it?
Down at the very bottom on the right-hand side, the little thought bubble.
Okay,
I
got it.
just put it in. So.
Perfect.
Absolutely. So for students that have questions joining us today, or again later on watching this video, definitely feel free to reach out to Rachel as well as Yolanda. They're happy to give you a little bit more inside scoop about Lilly and the career opportunities. And I also just want to say thank you, Rachel and Yolanda, on behalf of the University of Connecticut School of Business faculty, staff, and students. We appreciate you joining us today and giving us valuable insight about your organization. And we truly look forward to having you back on campus. So thank you again, and take care.
All right. Thank you.
Guys,
Thank
thank
you.
you.
Okay, so I've missed the contact portion for Yolanda.
I have her email.
Okay, that would be great. You know,
Oh,
ironically
it's
enough,
there. It's there. She added it.
I had a group of students that are in a marketing class reach out to me because they want direct contact based upon a project.
Oh, absolutely.
Right? And
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to figure this out. Thank you, Sue. I greatly appreciate it.
I don't think I did much. I think it was really Christina who figured it all out. But yeah, nice
still
job
recording.
as always, Mick.
We tried.
Yeah.
We got it
You're
done.
still recording.
Oh, I hate that when that happens.
Oh.